I don't mind going
Oh,
first.
thank you, Krishna.
So I looked at sustainability, but from like a social contribution perspective. So like what the Sony does to engage with their communities, and they have like loads of different initiatives that they are working on. So there's a lot of things on increasing curiosity um, amongst children. So it's like a global education program to empower curiosity.
That works very
Um,
well, doesn't it, as well? Because they're a technology and an innovation business. So actually, that I think there's a good alignment there as well.
yeah, it's all about sort of like encouraging more people into engineering, more girls into engineering. And it's like it's not just a sort of specific to one sort of region, but it's like they're doing it across all of their regions. Um, they have loads of sort of like emergency fund relief stuff. So like they work with Save the Children. Um, they have like they support like refuge activities. Um, all about sort of taking care of the oceans and things like that. Like local environmental conservation.
Yeah.
And then they also have like charitable foundations. So they have a not-for-profit foundation dedicated to providing high quality music for children. So
Oh,
um, some people, some kids might not have access to that sort of things, like things that are easily accessible for people like us. Um, and then they also have the Sony Education Foundation. So that's supporting schools and teachers, providing creative um, approaches to education. Um, they have the Sony Foundation Australia, and that's to help um, improve mental health and well-being of young Australians and those with severe illnesses, disabilities, and homelessness. And then they have a similar thing for Sony Canada.
so there seems to be some autonomy, doesn't there, depending on which region they're in, as to what specifically they're rolling out or doing.
Yeah.
Which is good. It's good, isn't it? Because it gives some ownership then to connect. Because the challenge we've got if we're so big is to feel like we resonate with the local. Do you know what I mean? That there's an identity with that connected with that country.
Yeah. I think it's all about sort of creating the local relationships with the community.
Oh, that's fantastic. Um, Thank you. Really, really good knowledge. You've got some good for this assignment. You've got some really good information to base it on. So that's perfect. Thank you, Krishna. I'm going to move over to Rob now. What have you found out about Tesla, Rob? What's Elon Musk up to now?
I looked at the autopilot. So with Tesla vehicles, they've got autopilot,
Yeah.
and the way he's trying to sell it is that it's saving lives. So sort of the ethical side of things is quite difficult because some people believe that it's going to cause more accidents than it's worth because
There was
people are.
one accident. There was one, wasn't there? Was there one where someone was watching Harry Potter and they died?
There's been a few, so yeah. So in America, especially, people are literally going to sleep while driving. So
Oh.
they're taking it to the extremes. But he's trying to sell it as if he's trying to save people's lives and trying to prevent accidents,
Yeah.
which is a bit strange, but yeah.
I like. Do you know what? It gives you a lot to talk about there, doesn't it? Because if you've got something that's just so standardly, universally accepted, whereas I think at least with anything that he comes up with, there's always some level of controversy, which gives you marks for critical analysis, doesn't it?
Yeah, and another one was just obviously with SpaceX. I know it's not Tesla as such, but it's owned by Elon Musk. That's the rockets that they're sending up. They're all sort of reusable. So they used again and again, which is the Falcon rocket. So yeah,
And how many times have they actually been reused yet, or is
yeah, they've
this?
been doing controlled landings of them. So they come down and they land as imagine that they're obviously upright when they take off. They
Yeah.
come back down and they land upright as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know what though? Without people who are so visionary, we're just going to end up the same all the time, aren't we? So you got to, yeah. I think it's brilliant, isn't it, to hear about sorts of things. Yeah, I think he's a bit of a nutter, but that obviously makes him quite interesting, doesn't it? Really.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's good. I'm looking forward to finding out. Yeah, I'm looking forward to your assignments. They're going to be really good. Moving on then to Tom and Apple. Tom Ainsley. I'm sorry I always have to give you a surname. I don't know, like, I don't know if you've got a nickname or something that I can differentiate between it. It's not normally a problem because Tom May normally can't make it, can it? So there you go. Anyway.
Right. So I looked at diversity. So
Fantastic.
on their website, it says, across Apple, we've strengthened our long-standing commitment to making our company more inclusive and the world more just, where every great idea can be heard and everybody belongs. So from that, they've dropped some statistics as well. So they claim that a number of coloured employees in the US has grown from 50% to 60%, with increase in leadership as well. And the number of female employees worldwide has grown from 70 to 85% in leadership roles as well. So they're obviously seeing that there's a problem or trying to adjust to that as well. Okay. So they're trying to make it more of an inclusive workplace and a bit more diverse compared to what it has been in the past.
Okay. It's quite interesting though, as a product range, it's not necessarily that inclusive because it's quite premium priced, isn't it, as well? So it's almost like as a product. Yeah, I don't know. What do you make to, increasing? Do you think that's the right approach to be doing that?
Depends if they've got the skill set. If obviously the employees have the skill set to do the job in hand, then I can't see a problem with why you shouldn't be employing, I don't know, more women or more people from different backgrounds. So I think as long as the skill set is matched, then obviously there's not a problem. But if they're just taking people for the sake of taking people to brag about their numbers, then obviously that's more of a problem.
That's massively unethical to do if they're doing it for that reason. And also it depends where the problem lay in the first place, because actually if it was where they were recruiting, if it was the language, because there's different type, depending on how there are really, really subtle differences that you can use in job adverts that will totally change who applies for it. And it's sort of depending on how aggressive your use of language is.
So it might be tweaked just for that purpose. You don't
exactly
know
so it's
behind it.
Yeah, we don't know whether they've changed the pipeline, they've looked at how they've recruited and realised that actually they've got some issues with it, or whether there's so we don't. It's the end result there. It's the gloss, isn't it, that they're showing, but actually So brilliant. Okay, thank you. Those are really good findings. I'm going to move on to Emily on Coca-Cola. Obviously Coca-Cola can do no wrong, but what more good are they doing?
Not that Krishna actually sent me a website for Coca-Cola about how ethical they are. So basically they received the Ethical Consumer's Worst rating for supply chain management because they were accused of contributing to water shortages. They also received it for carbon management and palm oil policies. And they're labelled the world's biggest plastic polluter. So, not too great.
Wow. I'll tell you what, about half an hour ago, 3/4 an hour ago, you were promoting them as if they were like Disney. I feel like they've fallen from grace in the sense that in this morning session, haven't they? That's really good for critical analysis though, isn't it? To show like one set of one viewpoint, which is actually in terms of how they're performing, because they're a big production company, really, aren't they? And a huge manufacturer, and versus the dream they're selling, because it is all about aspirations, heritage. It's about they are trying to sell something, and ultimately something that is not. I know they sell a range of products, but the sort of the core Coca-Cola ones aren't necessarily agreed as been at all nutritionally valuable. So they've got a big challenge, which I think is why they almost overdid all the employee stuff. That
Yeah.
makes sense. It's almost like the if we're looking at Shell or BP, so because they've got so much damage that they've done, they have to almost flip it, don't they, to sort of be seen. Okay, do you feel like you can use all that in the assignment?
Yeah, definitely. I think, like you said, it would be good for critical analysis.
That's amazing. Yeah, you've done really well. Thank you, and thank you, Krishna. You're like, the most helpful person to have, I think, in the course, because you're sharing really useful links, so that we do appreciate it. Right, thank you, Emily, and thank you, Krishna, for your contribution to Emily. Tamsin, is this just implicit knowledge that you've got regarding these, or is there anything specifically you've been able to look at for your employer?
So I've had a look at their website. I've looked at I looked at the website for sustainability, but for ethics, I've got an example that's not a good one.
Okay.
So for sustainability, obviously they're into the electrification of the automotive industry, so electric motors for vehicles, but they've also recently partnered up with Rolls-Royce to make an electric plane.
Oh, okay.
So obviously that's working towards lowering carbon emissions and trying to combat global warming. So I've looked at sustainability, and then I know how I've been talking about how they do all these lovely events for employees and stuff. There's a flip side to it. So the only people that are allowed to go to those events are actual permanent members of staff. So the people that are self-employed, because of like IR35 or whatever it is, that new rule that came in, they've not invited self-employed contractors, which I think is really bad. They could still invite them, but the company just can't give them the benefits such as the free food and drink. The contractor just have to pay for it. So instead of doing that, they're just not including them at all. And then another thing that I've noticed is, because I work with somebody quite close on a daily basis who's a self-employed contractor, he doesn't get included on any of the internal communication emails. So one went out a few weeks ago about the new Ferrari and how we've contributed to it, but he didn't get that email showing like new photos of the new Ferrari and reviews for it and stuff, even though he's worked on it. So I feel like that's not very nice. That's one thing that I've found so far that I don't necessarily agree with very much.
And I think it's well worth flagging that. I think this comes back. Do you remember the slides that were saying about ethics and actually, are you doing things legally right? They are, because actually there has to be a clear distinction between people falling inside and outside. And actually, to allow that to happen, they're doing the right things in terms of their behaviours. They could sell tickets to those events, as you were saying, where they then maybe have a food and drink pass, so it doesn't feel like they're being excluded. So that would be a good way around it. But
I'm saying that they're wrong, because they're not wrong.
No, I didn't feel you were, but I do understand it's not a good
There's ways of getting around it, because there are quite a few self-employed contractors, and it must make them feel like they're obviously not as important as everybody else.
Yeah, and it does make them feel different, and they are different. They're having to go through audits now to prove that they are. Everyone is nervous about this whole IR35 that's in that sort of bracket, because there are huge tax penalties, I think, involved, and fines and things. So yeah, I agree with you that it's the right, but there are different approaches that could be used. They're just protecting themselves, aren't they? That's what they're. So maybe you do go back to those three questions about ethical behaviour. Is that honestly how they could answer? Yes, they're going yes to compliance. Yes, they're going to this, but doing the right thing. This is where we've got a question mark, isn't it?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, that's really good. Thank you. Kieran, what you got?
I couldn't mute my mic then.
Microphone.
So I looked at diversity and sustainability for Aston. Diversity wise, there's a report done a couple of years ago to say how undiverse the business is. So they've released in, I think it's the 2019 report, about their new strategy becoming more diverse, how they want to hire certain people in certain places to meet customer focused demands and stuff like that. So I think it was a public report went out, and they've tried to just change how they're gonna work.
Okay.
for sustainability, trying to go into more hybrid and EV cars instead of big petrol engines. That was their sustainability plan. I went sustainability a bit wrong, and I started looking into how they're trying to make the business more sustainable to keep it running instead of
instead of the CSR sort of side to it. Okay, yeah. Well, in theory, they should complement each other, though. And also, another thing you could ask from a critical analysis point of view for sustainability, are they doing it because it's what's external pressures? Do you remember when we talked about, I think it was something like the 4 E's or something on environmental? I think it was in session 1. There was something about the pressures from the government, and I think that's driving their sustainable agenda on their products far more than them wanting to do it.
Yeah.
So we can look at actually why they're doing it, because that fits in with ethics a bit.
Forced to do it instead of wanting to do it.
Yeah, that's very different, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, brilliant. Was there anything else you wanted to add on that?
That was everything. There's nothing really up to date with Aston.
Yeah. Okay, but still lots to talk about. So thank you. Tom, are you with us?
I am, but I'm sort of floating around between
No,
a job and
that's absolutely, everything's been recorded, so you just have a look afterwards, okay? And I'll upload it this afternoon. Brilliant. Okay. Thank you very much for today's session. I'm going to wrap up now then. So just to let you know, in terms of additional support, so we've got a short talk session next week, which is just about 11:15, so 9:15 to 11:15, with a bit more content, not a huge amount more. Then we've got one-to-ones that are all scheduled in for each of you. If you want to move a one-to-one, obviously it would only be, just let me know if you do. I haven't got a huge amount of capacity on the Monday or Tuesday, to be honest, to move it. So it would be better if we could keep it on the Wednesday. And then in addition to the one-to-one, if you would like me to look at a draft of your work, so if you do more beyond our conversation on the Wednesday, the last time I will look at anything is anything that's received by midday on Friday the 16th. So if you send me anything by then, I'll have a look at it and get back to you and just give you some more pointers. So that's the support moving forward for this module. I've invited you all. It's a Teams invite, but obviously it will be in person on site at CU Coventry on Wednesday the 1st of September. And with that, it's definitely going to happen. I may not be able to find out a room. I have already asked, so don't think it's for lack of trying, but I'm